Now.
Really?
Now,
Now.
hey guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Alexis, and as usual, we have Evelina here. Um,
Hello.
we are the we are the Powder Puff Girls, and today we're joined by two very special guests. Our friend Joe from Unmumsy Musings, and our friend Angelo. And Angelo, do you have a channel?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, not yet.
He-
So we also
Getting
have
there.
Angelo, and we all have our drinks ready. We've all gone to the toilet. We've all got our essentials. We've had our caffeine, as you can tell, so much caffeine. But today in our stream, we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones, not just the most recent series, but the entire series, or not just this season, but all of the seasons, all of the seasons.
All of them.
And we are so very excited, and we hope that you enjoy the stream. If you're watching on playback, we hope you enjoy the stream, and let's just get into it.
Yeah. We're ready. I'm tweeting it out. Oh wait, I forgot to leave the link. Okay, I'm deleting that.
All
All right, I'm
of
going
Game
into
of Thrones.
All of them.
all of the
of it.
thrones, all of the thrones. Oh, nerd panel! I love that.
Yeah. We are the nerd panel.
Hooray, nerd panel! All right, so who would like to start? Like, what are our thoughts on this? Let's start with the finale. How about that?
Okay.
What are our thoughts on? Hey, a girl has no name.
Hi. Oh no.
Hi.
Well, hello. Thank you for popping in for a bit.
Yeah.
Conspiracy. That's Arya.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, we're gonna talk about potential spin-offs as well. Speaking of
Ooh,
Arya,
very
Uh,
excited about that.
we have so much to cover today. Okay, so the finale. Danny dies. There. Oh, we should give a spoiler warning. Spoiler!
Spoiler! Spoiler alert!
Well, I did kind of say we're talking about all of the seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in the
Surprise!
West.
She's in
Oh,
the
she's in the
West.
West. Oh.
She's in the West. Are you going to see Nina West?
Oh my God, you're fired.
Bad joke.
this is-
You're cancelled.
Damn
Cancelled.
it! Damn it!
that was a
Again!
bad one.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Right, so
So-
if... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Right, so I was going to say, if you've read the books, some of the prophecies in the books weren't fully mentioned throughout the whole of the Game of Thrones. There were bits and pieces, but there was always some sort of indication that Dany was going to die, whether or not it was in childbirth. Well, mainly the prophecy always kind of pointed towards like a childbirth death. So I always thought, well, maybe she was going to have a child with Jon and she was going to die in childbirth or some like twisted thing like that. But, I kind of knew from this season that, the way that Dany was unraveling, that the only way it could go forward was if Dany was to die, because she got so into what she was doing for other people that it turned out it really wasn't for all the innocents out there. It was mainly for herself.
Yeah.
So
For
that
her
didn't
own
shock.
selfish purposes.
Yeah. So that really didn't shock me. The way she died shocked me.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, is the only person that could get close enough to do that would have been Jon anyway, because the dragon was the only one that Drogon was the only one that would allow him near her.
Yep.
And she wouldn't see it coming, because he's always like, she's my queen, I don't want to be leader. And, there's that whole romantic sister wives thing going on there as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think my issue, like I knew that Dany was going to die, and there was a big chance that Jon was going to be the one killing her. Like, I knew all of that. The problem I had with this season, like overall, is that I feel like they rushed it so much, and the death of Dany was so quick into the episode. It kind of
Yeah.
like felt like, oh, okay, well, okay then, she died.
Yeah,
Like
and
it
like where
was
do we go
just
from here? Yeah.
yeah. So it basically like felt
Felt rushed.
anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Very.
was like okay, so we have, but it was the same thing with a lot of people. We have had this huge long build up, and when the ending finally comes, it's kind of like meh.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt the
I
same way. It was kind of like, oh, okay.
yeah. I
Yeah.
That's
think
happening.
maybe that episode could have revolved around the plot of Danny's death, and then people sort of dealing with it afterwards, and then maybe the end of that would be you'd see people starting to travel down for that final council, and then the last episode could have been the whole council thing, and then them picking the new ruler, and then you see people going off, because then you've got more of a closure and it didn't feel so rushed. I think they could have done with one more episode.
Yeah, a girl has no name says John felt irrelevant. His mama and papa falling in love was the whole point of the story.
Yeah.
He kind of like he has been the main character from the beginning together with Danny, and he kind of had no character in the end. It was like he was only there to kill her, and then he left. He didn't bring anything. He didn't like. So what was the point of people knowing he was a true Targaryen, heir of the throne? Well, we won't care about that. Like everything that was super important up until the last episode, kind of like, nah, don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They definitely could have fleshed it out more, but instead they were kind of implementing a 5-week time jump. And the 5-week time jump would have been something they could have explained more and be more in tune with it, and how the killing of Danny changed him as a person, and how the death of Danny changed the whole kingdom.
Yeah.
But no, they chosen to go with a 5-week time jump and then start with a council meeting. And I have to agree with Joe. They would have made a better decision, or it would have been a better decision to implement another episode and have that episode to be a focus on life after Dennis' death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also felt like they like, even though it kind of like was a foreshadowing Danny going insane, it's not that obvious. I felt like they could have put, if they added like 3 episodes, they could have really fleshed out a lot of things in this season. One thing being the war with the Night King. That could have been, well, at least 2 episodes. Like that was the huge thing. And it was over. It started and ended in 1 episode, basically. I felt like I wanted more on that war, and I wanted like a bit of a time. Like if I could have chosen, I would like an entire season added to this. Like we have the war with the Night King in this season, and we have like the final war in King's Landing in season 9. That would have been like my, because they have been going so slow and steady for all of these 7 seasons, and now it's just like we're gonna cramp it in 6 episodes.
Yeah, it felt a bit. And if you think about it, how Game of Thrones started with Ned Stark, and Ned Stark really didn't reside in the fact that the North was part of the 7 Kingdoms. He still wanted independence. He was offered the throne, but he passed it over to Barath. Who was it? Was it Baratheon? No.
Wait, what?
Who was the king at the beginning of it?
Oh,
Lannister.
Robert Baratheon.
Yeah.
That's it. He passed it. He advocated and passed it over to Robert Baratheon, but he didn't. And it was all because he wanted the North to be independent. And the way all the Starks, including Jon Snow, have gone about it was, it was for the people. And with Sansa saying she wanted the independence again, I feel they could have played out more on that and why she wanted that independence, maybe, or brought like some flashbacks of Sean Bean as Ned Stark, you know, like scenes that may never have been seen before, like memories of maybe Ned talking to Sansa or the kids, you know, little bits like that. Like, I
no,
like thinking about it.
A Girl Has No Name wrote Wexit.
It is. But Ned's.
Sorry,
But
sorry to interrupt, Joe. I just had to go with. I had to go in with that. I'm sorry.
That's all right. But yeah, I thought they could have played on that a bit. Why? Because, you know, by the time we've got to this final season, you know, there's people that may not have remembered all the first season and why the North was independent in the first place and why they wanted their independence. You know, so I think there was, you know, when, like, if they did an extra episode of, you know, deciding why who they wanted to rule and everything, and there could have been little clips about maybe Sansa doing like flashback memories of talking to her dad, or, you know, just little things like that to like accentuate why Sansa wanted the North to be independent, rather than that just like 1 minute speech. You know, it kind of, there was no justification in that, you know, why Game of Thrones started in the first place in that first season, what they were going for kind of all got lost. And I know with the whole Dany situation, that's what she wanted, like freedom and so forth. But you look at it as the North always wanted their independence. You know, and it's kind of a story that got lost in the series as it went on.
Yeah.
I also think that like there's so much more that I wanted like more of. I like Bran the Broken becoming king. I have no issues with him sitting on the throne, actually.
No.
What I do
either.
have an issue with is that he was so flat as a character, especially after they left the cave. Because I don't remember her name right now, but the girl who helped him out the entire time basically said like, "Oh, Bran died in that cave." And he wasn't really Bran anymore, and that comment like started to like set off an entire like theory of mine with Bran and the Night King and the Third-Eyed Raven and everything, and it was like it turned into nothing. And the Bran that we got in the end was not the Bran we learned to know up until the cave. So who is the king? Who is this Bran?
Yeah.
And John should have pushed Bran in the sea when he bent the flipping knee.
Oh. But I also want to know, where's that girl now? She pushed him around in that wheelchair or dragged him around on the sledge for a whole season.
Yeah.
To then disappear, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Her name was Mira. Yeah, and it was like, so I would have loved to get to know like the Bran, the Broken. Oh, hi. Oh, Hugh. Sorry, I probably butchered your name. So, but I would have liked to get to know the new Bran, like the one he was after he became the Three-Eyed Raven. I would have loved to see what did he do when he warged away from the Night King wars. What did he do? What did he discover? Like, who is this person ending up on the throne? I would like to know, because this is what we have been waiting for. Who is going to end up the final ruler? And we have no idea who it is, basically. I would like more.
Yeah, but there was no, like, you know, in those final scenes where they're sat around the table, you know, like Bran comes in and then he just goes out again. Like, there was no, you know, Bran, what do you want? How do you want this to go down?
I think,
or, you know,
I think part of it is because Bran was never meant to be a dictator. Like he didn't want to, like, I don't think that he wanted to be the king of old, where the king sat in on everything, or the queen in Cersei's case, you know, that sat in on everything and had like this overbearing shadow over everybody. He wanted the people to be able to be heard rather than just his own voice being heard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He sits ahead of the table but he isn't a table himself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
instead of ruling with might and with anger and with every other emotion there is, and he definitely could have, because most of his family was so in distress over all this season, he chose to be the wise one and let other people who have experience in their own field rule the kingdom with
Yeah.
best intentions they have.
And I know he's a man. He's a man of few words, but I would have liked those few words to be at least 30 and not 2. You
Yeah.
know, like at least say something rather than, you know, does anyone know where Drogon is? Oh, maybe I can find him. Like, and then stroll off. Like, no, you can't end it on that. Like, come back. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And it's like
Yeah.
I guess that, like, since every other king has been like this problematic figure, so the best kind of like king they could figure out was someone with basically no emotions at all.
Mm.
But still, it's like, well, who is this person? Like, I would like to know.
But I like how they oh, I can't see the chat.
Sorry.
What they saying?
Okay, so
Hooly hoo.
a girl has no name says, I have a three-eyed raven tattooed on my arm. I punched it when I watched the ending.
And then Hooly Hoo wrote, "My eyes turn white like Bran after that ending. Caesar's, not Warg."
Come on, come on. But oh God, I forgot what I was going to say now.
Stop
You
it!
lot. I thought I was a bad one. No. But I think I like the mixture at the end of who they've got around the table. They've got new blood. And you know, they've still got the old, so you still got Tyrion, and then you still got what's his name that was sent after to kill Tyrion.
Bronn.
That's
Bronn.
it.
Run.
And they're all sat there, and you know, they're all like having like a bit of banter. This is the thing, right? If you don't know how the British are, the way they portray Northerners, as in the North in the Game of Thrones, is pretty much what UK Northerners are. And the banter they have round that table is like proper British banter.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice to see that being brought in, but how they've mixed old blood with new blood. So they're still going to have kind of old ways that was working and that was good, but they're also bringing new ways into it to replace the bad ways, if that makes sense.
Okay, so a girl has no names. Is the original three-eyed raven just goes into a new host and takes a little bit off each person they've been in.
Oh.
So who is, like, that's what I mean, like, who is the original three-eyed raven? Because that's who is king now, not Bran.
Yeah. I do like, and I think I've said this, I can't remember who I've said it to. I think we said this in our own little chat,
We've talked about this a lot.
is that I really like the idea of Bran being the king because of the fact that he is the three-eyed raven. It has nothing to do with him being a warg or being attached to like the magic in the land. For me, it's because he can look back and see everything, and he can see what every single leader has done right, what they've done wrong, how it's affected their people. I think yes, it was kind of like, oh, this is an interesting, but then I started thinking about it and I'm like, wait a second, he's like probably the best person for this because he knows the whole history of man, you know? And so I thought it was a really good choice.
Yeah.
Was it a little bit like, oh, that's left field? But then, like, when you think about it, it makes sense.
But when Tyrion said about, you know, that whole speech he gave about stories and that, you know, a story can't be killed and all that. And then you look at Bran, and Bran's got all those stories because he can see into the past. So would people be more respectful as him as a king and a ruler because he does have that knowledge. He does know what went wrong, what went right, who is who, what was formed, you know, stories of past and present and so forth. You know, that's, you can't really mess with that, you know.
I think that one reason why people fear Bran is not like he's not an intimidating character. Like he's this boy in a wheelchair. Like, um, but it's like the reason people are afraid of him is because he can see everything.
Yeah.
He can see every little secret that people want to hide, and so it's like in a world that has basically been built up on lies and scheming and like backstabbing, you have someone who's like, I see what you are doing, and I can do stuff to trap you. Like I create, like, because the thing he said to whoever it was, I don't remember, like, why do you think I'm here, basically. Like he knew he would end up there and be a king. Like like he wouldn't have gone there if he wasn't ready to be king. And so he knew everything from the start, and seeing like the three-eyed raven, who, like, talking about that character and not Bran, the three-eyed raven sat in that cave, has been sitting somewhere all along, seeing in the future, and could have like directed this into happening the way this has gone. And because of his ability to warg, he can also control certain animals. And you know, like, looking back on everything that has happened on with the dire wolf that was killed by a deer or whatever it was, that could have been the three-eyed raven attacking the wolf. Like the wolf, what is a dire wolf doing on this side of the wall? Well, that could have been the three-eyed raven making the wolf go there, and then been killed by that. So they would find the little puppies, and then he'd have all these animals that could spy on the Starks, like 6 puppies for 6 Starks.
That's interesting, because I was always, the minute the three-eyed raven was introduced into this show, I was like, what is his purpose? He has all this knowledge but does nothing with it. But now you saying that, a theory, is making me go, maybe this was set up from the beginning by the three-eyed raven from the past, because he knew what would happen. Well, because time traveling is a thing that the three-eyed ravens can do, apparently. So him sending the wolf out, there's theories. My mind is exploding right now.
What about as well that, you know, a three-eyed raven had the choice to show Bran John's true heritage. You know, he didn't have to show him that, so he showed him that for Bran to then tell, you know, have John know. If John didn't know this, would he have then been in that position to realise that Dany had to die for there to be peace?
Hi, Jennifer. Good morning.
Good morning.
I like what Girl has to say. She said that the end could have made sense had they told the story better. It's how they got to the end that bothered me, and that John was punished for protecting the realm of men, or the realms of men.
But he wasn't punished, though, because if you think about it, the only people that know that the Night's Watch are disbanded are the people of the North. So Grey Worm didn't know that the Night's Watch wasn't there. John knew the Night's Watch wasn't there. So, you know, it was like, okay, your punishment is to go and be banished to the Night's Watch. And it's like, well, hang on. And like Tyrion's like, well, you know, like before John could spoil it. And then that's when John realised he's got freedom. He's got freedom now that he can go over and live with the wildlings, because we all know that's where John felt most at home, was with the wildlings, because they were free people. You know, so where you think John's being punished, he really isn't. He's been allowed to go and do what he wants. Because
free.
where it says like you're not to marry, you're not to have kids, no one's ever going to know if he has kids
Mm.
because of the
And
wildlings.
and the thing is, like, because my husband is watching like he had like I watched the Game of Thrones on my own, and he started watching it like a week, 2 weeks ago. So I am watching it here and there with him. And yesterday I happened upon an episode where Jon Snow was in a fight with some I don't know what they are called, like people who had ran away from the Night's Watch, deserters.
Yeah.
And they had this fight, and the bad guy basically was taunting Jon Snow about like, I am free, you will never be free, before he died. So there's always been like this idea of being like planted about John and freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I
What
didn't think about it until I saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Another thing that I really liked about the Danny storyline was that not only was she driven to madness, right?
Mm.
But that as she's standing there in front of the Dothraki and in front of the Unsullied and in front of the people that she's like, we broke the wheel, or
Mm.
like, we're gonna break the wheel, and the fact is that she didn't realize that she had become the wheel, or
Yeah.
that's where she was going with it.
Mm.
And she was so like invested in being this leader and having this throne, that she was willing to become that very thing she was trying to destroy.
Because those speeches she gave, like when she first got the Dothraki on board, and in that final speech where she's standing at the top of the stairs and Drogon's behind her with the wings and that speech is what Drogo said to her when he promised her the Seven Kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like she's, like you said, where she's trying to break this will and she's become the will. She didn't like what the Dothraki did, the raping and the pillaging and all that, right?
Yep.
But by the end of it, she really didn't care what they did. And it's like, right, you're trying to break that will. Not only have you kind of gone down your dad's path, you've also gone down Drogo's path, which is a path that you didn't want in the first place.
Yeah. And I also think like that speech showed a lot of things that both Tyrion and John kind of realized. That one, she wasn't done. Like she would never be done. Like she had always had her eyes set on the throne, but she has said several times that she has said like, what's next? I want to go on to the next one. And now it was another one of those, like, I'm here, I'm at my goal. Now to the rest of the world. And if this is her version of freeing folk, like killing everyone, it's going to be like a massive slaughterhouse.
Yeah. She's like, I freed the people of King's Landing. No, you didn't. You killed them all.
Yeah. Define free.
Yeah. Another thing that I really liked was that Danny never actually sat on the throne like that we saw.
Yeah.
Like in her vision, she got right there and she almost touched it. And then like in this episode, she got there, she touched it. But and this is another thing about that vision that I think Joe reminded me of that happened, was when she had her vision that she was like going to the throne and there was all this, what people could have thought was snow falling around her that ended up being ashes. I think that it was in her vision snow, because Jon Snow is the one that actually ended up killing her. Like it was foreshadowing that you're going to die in the throne room and it's going to be because of snow. Like it wasn't the ash. It was actual snow. Yeah.
And the reason that she didn't get to sit on that throne, though she was so close to it, was because Snow killed her.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
like they say, the prophecies aren't always as they seem. They have these sinister twists to them. You know, like, so if we go to Arya and that white horse, there was a theory that Bran resurrected the white horse, but you know, it's like there was a white horse that was in there after that one of the Dothraki was riding, but it was covered in blood. But the white horse in a prophecy in the books, but not in the actual series, was something like, and she shall ride, or he shall ride on a white horse to bring like plague or whatever. So basically, the person riding the white horse was Death, because Death was always on a white horse, not a black horse.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm just gonna read a few comments here. Hulu said, I didn't like how Danny didn't acknowledge and confront John, that he betrayed her by revealing to Sansa and Arya his true heritage. I don't remember that happening. A Girl Has No Name says, they said that it snowed in King's Landing. That was what Drogon was covered in, apparently.
She did. Danny did. Yeah, Danny did confront John, and it was only a small clip.
Yeah, it was very quick.
Yeah, she was standing in what was it, in the castle before they went on the attack or something, and you know, like she's talking about being portrayed, and she mentioned I can't remember if Tyrion or something, but she did confront him, and it was only for a couple of seconds that, you know, you told your sister. Your sister then told Tyrion, and Tyrion told me.
Like,
therefore,
what did you think was
me.
going to happen when you told her? She did exactly what, you know, she did exactly what I told you she was going to do, and she tried to take the throne away from me, basically.
Dragonstone, it was next to the fire. Yeah.
Mm.
And that was also when she was rejected by John.
Ponies, the mini stallions of the world. Yes, ponies.
Yeah, but the thing about, like, I felt like we could have ended up in this exact situation, but they could have built it up a lot better so that that didn't feel so rushed. Like we're having to add like pieces of flesh ourselves to make an entire character or an entire like beast. Like we have to add ourselves. Like we've been talking for days about the ending. We've been talking about prophecies. We've been talking about what ifs and everything. But it's only because of us like talking about it and dragging it out and like discussing it that it makes sense.
You know, something else that I heard today as well was I was watching some videos in preparation for this, and Got Culture, who is also known as What Culture, they've got two channels now. They've got Got Culture, which is strictly Game of Thrones, and then they've got What Culture. Anyway, they did a recap of this the last episode, and they said that they really loved how the ending actually the whole story was about the Starks and the Stark children. It was all the other stuff was fluff, and how you had the story start with the Stark children and end with the Stark children, and how it was this one big, you know, what am I trying to say? This one big story arc that, you know, was tied off in a bow, basically, of all the Stark children, well, most of the Stark children, you know, going off, having this relationship with each other, coming through this horrible years with each other, and you know, being separated and torn apart and forced apart and that sort of thing, and how it all just came full circle, and it was always about the Stark children. It was always about the Starks. And I didn't even realize that. Like, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, holy shit, it really was about the Stark family.
Yeah.
It is. That's what Ned wanted. He wanted his children to be these headstrong rulers.
Mm.
I mean, he might have gone asked about front with it, but it's like, with Arya, well, Sansa, she was being prepared to be like a lady in waiting type person. So that would have been like the queen, if you look at it. But then Arya, where she didn't want that, she wanted to learn how to fight in this. And he never stopped her learning about it. He let them mold into their own selves. And this is what I'm saying is, like why I would have liked that story elaborated on why Sansa wanted the North to be independent again, is because Ned was paving this way. Like when he went down to King's Landing, he went down there for a reason. It wasn't just to conform. There was a reason behind that. Unfortunately, he was killed, spoiler alert if you've not watched season 1, but he was killed, and you had that downfall of the Starks and them all like running and being separated, and how Arya and Sansa, they had love for each other for sisters, but not for people. Like, they hated each other's guts. And you kind of, at one point you thought, well, was Arya going to be like a faceless person to take her sister out type, and it was like, right, okay. And then that didn't happen. And because of these wars turning, and then both Arya and Sansa realizing that they needed to be better people for the people, that kind of sisterhood bondship came back. So where they're all sitting, you've got Arya, Bran, and Sansa all sitting at that council meeting. You kind of Bran's that peacemaker that brought them back together, and it's kind of like a happy ending. Obviously they're missing the other Snow, the brother, what's his name, that died. I can't remember his name now. That was killed.
Angelo, are you watching the chat?
I am.
I didn't even think about it.
What's that?
Angelo, tell them.
I'm sorry.
He's eating.
Oh, okay.
Evelina, go on.
Yeah. So, the dire wolves, the puppies, the names: Sansa's wolf, Lady; Arya's wolf, Nymeria; Jon's ghost, I don't remember. One of them is Summer. Lady, Nymeria, is that like something that has to do with no name or something? Nymeria, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I can't Google, because if I Google, it'll drop me out of Google the Hangout.
It means, let's see. Okay, Nymeria was a warrior queen of the Rhoyne who brought 10,000 ships to the shores of Dorne, crossing the narrow sea. So she was a warrior.
Oh.
So it's basically like the wolves are like how they
portray themselves.
Yeah. So,
but if you think about it as well, what's her name? Arya's wolf is still alive, isn't she? She's out as a nomad, as roaming, and that's kind of how Arya ended it. She became this roaming nomad.
Yep, that's what it's. Yeah, that's what Haley just said.
Yeah,
I can't see the chat, so.
And Ghost, like if you look at what is happening now, like Sansa became a queen, like a lady. Arya is a traveler, an explorer, a warrior, and Jon just disappears.
Yeah.
Like a ghost.
Oh, Jon disappears.
I'm sorry. I wanted to make the connection, but I had my mouth full with my breakfast.
Yeah. It's okay. I was like, no, it's like.
Don't choke, Angelo. Don't choke.
And Jon died.
Oh,
and Jon died.
Yep. And
Jon died.
Oh
God damn it! Those wolves. Those wolves knew all along.
What was Robb Stark's name? His wolf's name.
Exactly. I can't remember. Bran Stark.
Rest in peace. R.I.P.
Robb Stark.
Summer. No, that was Bran. Robb. Sorry.
Yeah. Grey Wind. Ooh, Grey Wind, Castle Grey? No, he didn't die at
Gray,
the Castle Grey.
no, no. What is it? There was something about the gray.
Grey Wind.
Graven.
Walder Gray, wasn't it?
Walter
Shaggy
Frey.
Dog. Rickon.
What?
We completely forgot Rickon.
Poor
Rickon.
Rickon.
Oh, poor
Yeah.
Rickon.
Rickon Stark Wolf name.
Shaggy
Yeah.
Dog.
Shaggy,
Oh my God.
and he became like a shaggy little boy.
Oh.
Who should have run through the field in
In a
Ooh.
zigzag.
in a
Ooh,
zigzag, but he didn't.
Haley
What?
Hughes got a good one. Bran equals summer equals a boy never knows winter and became king when winter passed. Boom.
Oh.
Mic drop.
Ooh.
Boom. Yeah,
Boom.
I'm acting like that
Bam.
was mine. Like,
We've just
Yeah!
solved the whole Game of Thrones thing going on now. Like,
Yeah, I have to research this thing about the dire wolves. Yeah, but the lady was, oh God, talking about like way back when they killed Lady the wolf. I was like
yeah.
that I almost stopped watching after season 1 because
Oh.
I couldn't handle all of the animals dying. Like
Yeah,
I
the animal abuse in the show was real.
yeah, it's like
listen, we called the RSPCA off when John met up with Ghost in that final episode. So
yeah,
we'll
Yeah,
be
that's
right.
right.
yeah.
Redemption.
Yeah, but this show, like Game of Thrones, hates horses first of all,
Yeah.
and
Especially
but
Pegasus.
yeah, but they're not fond of animals overall. Like animals, like me.
Yeah.
Just a little insight to that. It was because me and Angelo were watching Game of Thrones before everyone else, and it was like no spoilers. So I kept winding up everyone, especially Evelina, going, "Oh, Pegasus flies in!" And
Bye,
so,
girl.
Bye, girl.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
thank you for watching.
Yeah,
So it's like a little inside joke. Is Pegasus?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like we have
Taunting
whole
me
yeah,
horribly.
Because
taunting
Alexis,
you.
to
Not
give a little
today.
bit more context, Evelina, Joe, and myself, Angelo, live in Europe, and Alexis is on the other side of the world. So she is a full day past us. Or how do you
Ahead.
say that?
Yeah, ahead
Ahead.
of you guys. Yeah.
So yeah, it is always, and she has her own viewing party, and it was always on Tuesday nights, at least for us Tuesday. And we were like, no, why can't we talk with her?
So we
Yeah.
had so we would have when Game of Thrones episode aired and the three of us had watched it, so we didn't spoil anything for Alexis. We would have our own little Google Hangout or our chat about the whole thing, and
And when Alexis had watched it, we had another Google Hangout with her.
so we'd spend about 5 hours a week just
On Game of
content.
Thrones.
Yeah.
Just on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's a little pathetic if you think about it that way.
No, it's
Like
not.
like it's a little bit sad of how little of a life we all have.
But it's like but it's like a whole like a wormhole of going down the Game of Thrones, like theories and everything. It's not just a show. It's like a whole fandom. It's a whole like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and it doesn't end now.
Yeah.
We're gonna go there soon, but I was thinking we should talk about the season 1 first,
Yes.
or season like this series first, and
Yep.
it's like. And like I said, like my husband started watching this series like a few weeks ago, and when I had seen everything, and when he saw the first season, and Ned confessed to being a Kingslayer, and he was supposed to be pardoned, and Joffrey ordered him to be beheaded. My husband was so angry, and I was like, Mm.
You have to understand this was showing how brutal this fucking show was going to be when they
Yeah.
beheaded
Mhm.
Ned Stark. You should have
Yeah.
known from the start it was going to be fucking gut wrenching, and there was always going to be some like hellaciously unfair deaths.
Yeah.
Always.
And I remember like when he watched that episode, he kind of like turned the TV off, put the remote down, and basically said that fucking asshole, fucking king, child,
How,
bastard, like
how
all
does
the
he
swear
think we
words.
feel?
Yeah,
Years and years. We've been in resentment of Ned Stark being beheaded for
yeah.
years.
And I remember that
The
exact
North never
reaction.
forgets.
No,
Yes,
never. And
that's
it's like,
true as well.
and I was just sitting there like, it's only going to get worse, honey.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's really funny because my husband started watching season 7 with me.
mm,
And because my father-in-law would get the episodes from one of his old coworkers. And so he would pass it on to me when he was done with them or
mm,
make me copy whatever. I'm not admitting to doing anything illegal online, by the way.
nope.
Um but I would watch the episodes and because of my, chronic back issues, I'd be in my bedroom watching them off my computer. And so Paul would walk in every once in a while and he'd just stand there and he'd be there for like half an hour. And I'm like, well, the episode's almost over. Do you want to finish watching it with me? And he was like, no, it's okay. And then like the next week would happen. And then like by the third week, he was like, hey, do you think mom and dad would let us borrow the first few seasons? And so that's how Paul got hooked on it. Was just he was like, no, I have no interest in watching Game of Thrones. It's a stupid show.
Yeah,
It
It's
always
not going to
starts
be my
like
type
that.
of thing. And it's like, oh, beach.
yeah. That's how my husband started because I was like, I after season 4 ended, I decided that I couldn't wait for the new season to be released. So I decided I was going to wait until all seasons were done and over until I binged everything.
Yep. Yep.
And so
And then we pressured you.
and then
We did.
I waited
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I waited 3 years. 3 years to watch the season.
And then all it took was a
and
little bit of pressure from us and
a little
caved.
bit of, but I watched like 2.5 seasons in under a week.
I
And
remember that because she was like, I finished this episode. I've watched this episode. I've watched this episode. Oh my God, what happened? I can't believe this episode.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, and I sat there and I was going to watch from the beginning with my husband. Like that was the plan. We were going to watch it together from the beginning, and I was like, and he was watching like shit like Paradise Hotel instead of watching Game of Thrones with me, and I was like, fuck you, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones with or without you, and so that's how it went down.
Ooh,
Do you-
good
do you see how-
question. What's
do you-
everybody's favorite season? That's a really good question by Haley Who. Ooh.
Oh, I don't know. Like they all mould into each
Yeah.
other for me,
I
to be honest. But
Yeah.
I like what season was it? Right, was it 2 when the Dothraki came in, or was it 1? It was
what?
2. Was
It was I think it was 2.
the season
No.
where the eggs with the
No, that was the end of season 1.
Mm.
oh, so
When
going
she
into
stepped out with the eggs,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
I
I think that.
Season 2 would have been my best, and the season with Arya going to the Faceless Men, that was a bit slow, but I think there was more of a story to it.
Ooh, and that
I'm-
girl that kept tormenting her, I was so happy when she got her comeuppance. Oh, I was so glad when Arya beat the shit out of her.
Okay, so I'm just going to check.
Can you remember the memes when Drogon just disappeared and everyone was like, where's Drogon? And there were so many memes coming out online, have you seen Drogon? Have you seen this dragon?
I happened to miss all of that, thank God. because I watched it a day after it was released. And so I literally would not go on Twitter, would not go on Facebook. A couple of times I caught myself on Facebook and I was like, no, and like almost throw my phone out of my hand. No.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Because
So
that was like an adolescent teenage dragon, wasn't it? He was like, I'm not having these restrictions put on me.
Yeah.
You can't discipline me. I'm going to go. And then he was like, I'm hungry. Please let me back home.
Yeah,
Aw.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I just checked. My favorite season would have to be season 6 because I loved Cersei in that entire like battle between the High Sparrow and
Yes.
like all of that, because I remember just like, oh, Cersei is like a badass bitch. She's like the boss bitch. I was so
Yeah.
happy that
Evelina was so team Cersei. She was
Yeah.
so she would message me. She's like,
Traitor.
so I'm team Cersei right now. I'm like, no, she's like,
Traitor.
no, she's a badass bitch. And I'm like, no, but wait, there's
Wait.
more.
But for the entire season 6 with Cersei, I was like, yay, Cersei! Like she was so cool. I loved Cersei in season 6. And when she finally blew up the sept, I was like, yeah!
That was an epic
No.
moment.
That
So
was
I
the
like,
best episode. For me,
I
that's the best
liked,
episode.
I did like Marjorie. I think she was quite a prominent character and quite sad that she died. But I was like, if Marjorie had her way and she managed to get the youngest son away from the mother, from Cersei, maybe this whole story would have changed and King's Landing would have come as you know, that the whole Game of Thrones would have been like more peaceful. But for all of this to happen, you know, Cersei had to kill her, and then, you know, Cersei's lost all her children to being murdered by her young son, and he took his own life because of Cersei killing his wife. You know, but she never acknowledged that his death was her doing.
No.
And I think because of that, that was Cersei's undoing.
It didn't even seem like she was that bothered when it happened either.
No.
Because he
And then
did it right in front of her. And there was no, don't. There was none of that. There was just, he's doing okay. Bye.
But I think maybe she blames that on Marjorie. But no. You killed Marjorie, and he killed himself because of that. You know, but to her, it was like, right, okay, another one's bit in the dust. I'll just sleep with my brother again and get another child. Like it just, I think she was so power hungry that she forgot reality.
I think that this was quite shortly after Myrcella died as well.
Yeah.
And I think that Myrcella dying was basically like it really took away something for her, because I think that Myrcella was like the good that she brought into the world, and when Myrcella died, that was like the last good thing that Cersei ever produced. Because I think that even though Tommen was a good kid according to her, I think she kind of like put him in the same basket as Joffrey, being a boy.
That's the thing is with Myrcella, is that she could give birth to future kings and queens. She was that heritage, whereas the boys could have had bastards left, right, and centre. But with her daughter, that could have been one true leadership coming. That, you know, blood being pure and so forth. And
I think that like playing psychologist here, I think that Cersei kind of saw herself in Myrcella, but all the good that Cersei didn't have. And she talked a lot about like seeing Myrcella, it was like I could create something good. I wasn't all bad. And when Myrcella died, it was like, well, I don't have anything left that is good. So I think that something just broke in her.
But she forgot that Tommen was good as well. It was the middle that was the bad.
Yeah.
You know, she saw
sorry. No, you go ahead.
She saw with Joffrey. Joffrey was I think, resembled Cersei as she is now. You know, and that's why she latched on that he could rule with fear. That he, you know, because people feared him, he could be that leader, and I think that's what Cersei wanted. But it isn't how it should have been. Whereas her daughter and Tomlin were the more innocent. They actually thought about their people. You know, Tomlin had fallen in love with Marjorie, and there was this natural relationship going that Cersei was jealous of that relationship, because the only form of relationship she had like that was with her own brother. It wasn't with her husband. That was just like a transaction with the husband. There was no real feeling there, you know, but she had that feeling with Jamie, which, you know, the whole sister wives thing is just, but I think she was jealous of Tomlin. She didn't want Tomlin to rule at all. So when he came on, it was like, yeah, whatever. Like, and then when she saw he was actually falling in love with Marjorie, and he was listening to Marjorie and trying to change things, she was like, right, no, this has got to stop. Maybe by killing Marjorie, it would have stopped him from becoming this force of good. So when he did take his own life, it was like, you know, shrug his shoulders, like, you know, I could give or take that, because he really wasn't on my path. And I think that's what's really sad about that whole situation, that there was the youngest child that never really got a look in, never really meant anything to his mum like the other two did.
Yeah, I'm reading the
I was
chat.
just about to do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to?
Yeah. Haley Hugh says that Marjorie was one of the best players. She manipulated Joffrey as well as Tommen while gaining the love of the people of King's Landing. She even manipulated the High Sparrow and the Adept and adapted to the situation, which is very true. She learned so well from her grandmother.
Yeah.
She learned so well
I
how to play the Game of Thrones.
I loved her character also. Like,
but you see how with Marjorie, I can kind of see Marjorie in Sansa as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, like, figuring how the plot would have changed if Marjorie would have survived, because there would have been a lot of scheming and like everything. But what now, I can't remember her grandmother's name. Olenna?
Lady Olenna.
Yeah. Olenna is one of my favorite characters in this series. I have to, like, I loved her witty, sarcastic humor. She was my, like, life goals.
Who was it that came up to her and it was like, I think it was Bugger. What's his name? Bald guy. Varys. When Varys came up to her and he was like giving her all this praise, and she was like, you know, I'm very used to being told all these sweet things, but by all means keep going. I was like, yes, bitch.
Yeah, she knew the game all the way. She knew, like, she was so clever, and I watched back when because you remembered when Sansa got the necklace from the Fool Knight, and there's an episode on YouTube where Lady Olenna on the wedding goes to Sansa and fixes her hair and everything, and she actually takes one of the stones from Sansa's necklace. And the theory is that the poison was in that stone.
It wasn't a stone, because it was kind of, I don't know, there's the purple wedding, it is called, the whole thing when Joffrey dies, and the stone was poisoned. And that's why season 3, just to latch on the hype of the House Tyrell, season 3 is my favorite season. We have so many epic episodes in this season. We have the episode of Lady Olenna talking to Varys. We have the episode called "And Now His Watch Has Ended," the one where Dany is in Astapor and basically gets her Unsullied together. and the scene where she calls Dracarys and basically burns the whole place to the ground. That's really one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to choose an exact season because, like, there's out of every season going, there's something that
So
I
many
really
amazing
liked.
moments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
You
like
can
the fact.
hear the sound of her dropping in Joffrey's cup. Ah, I have to watch that
You
episode
can?
again. Dropping the poison. I have to watch it
Ooh.
again because I watched it and I was trying to figure out when she actually put poison in the glass because it was different mugs. And it was like it was thrown to the ground and I was like, but when is she supposed to drop the poison in it?
But
You
it's
can.
like, well,
Oh.
and like Game of Thrones itself, it is literally just seasons of playing chess, like strategies. I can't get my words out of people putting themselves in right places. Like Marjorie was put in that exact place by like her gran, and like Sansa being put in that place, and all of this. And I just think, like you say, like if Marjorie did survive, what would have happened? It would have been a whole different story. Was Cersei worried that Marjorie had this amount of control over her sons that eventually Cersei could have been banished or, like overthrown? Because with Cersei, it was all about control. It wasn't about family. It wasn't about love. It was about controlling people to bend to her will. But then if you look at Dany, as time went on, especially in this final season, that's what Dany was, that it was controlling people to bend to her will. And it got to the point that she didn't care how she gained that control, as long as people were basically ruled by fearing. And that's what Cersei was. So she's taken an evil out, a lesser evil out for herself, because let's face it, with the dragons, it's the dragons that got her where she was, not the armies.
Yeah.
It's harder to kill a dragon.
Yeah, it was the fear of the dragons rather than the fear of the girl. It was the one that was riding the dragons that, eventually that people were like, oh, we've got to be scared of her because she's got dragons.
Yeah. She wouldn't have ended up anywhere near the throne without the dragons.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like without her like having the dragons from season 1, or was it like when she walked out of the fire with her 3 dragons, that's when and how she started to gain power.
And that was a fucking epic scene too. When she comes walking out of that pyre and you're like, whoa.
And if you think about it, in that was it that season that she killed Drogo, wasn't it? Season 1, where she sacrificed her unborn child for Drogo to come back. Drogo came back and he was just pretty much just a skeleton,
a
really,
zombie.
Yeah. And she killed him, and it was like, from that moment, if you look back, you think she'll do whatever she can to get where she needs to be. Like, she sacrificed her own child when all she ever really wanted was a child, and she'd been told she could never have children because of being whatever. And she had that opportunity for her to basically throw it down the drain for her husband, for him to come back, and he's pretty much dead, so she has to kill him anyway. It's like, what has she won from that? She's won nothing apart from taking away shreds of humanity.
Did you like when Drogon melted the Iron Throne?
Yes.
Yeah, I did, and I also kind of like. I would like to know how smart dragons are.
Are they telepathic as well? Do you know what I mean? It's like, because they're mystical. Are they telepathic?
They'd have to be.
Yeah,
given how they understood what was going on in Danny's head.
Yeah.
They'd
Yeah.
have to be, like there have to be like this special bond between her and the dragons, like
Yeah,
you know.
and I think like because there was a girl I think said that she wanted it to end with John killing the Night King and Arya killing Grey Worm, taking his face and killing Danny. And I had the same idea that I wanted to see, but also that would have become a problem with the dragon because Arya isn't a Targaryen, and but John is. So that might be the reason why John didn't die, because he is Targaryen. Had it been Arya, he would probably have been burned to a crisp because the dragon recognized that this isn't a Targaryen, and he doesn't care if it's Grey Worm or Arya. But he knows John, as they have this connection.
I just wonder if Drogon had gone to like light John on fire, if he would have burned or not.
I saw an episode like way back, like one of the first seasons or something, when the first like night walking the dead uh, came to life in the Night's Watch, and he picked up a lantern and threw it at the dead person, and he burned himself on the lantern.
Okay.
But dragon's fire different to normal? No, because Danny didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, Drogon must have known what was going on. So why, because there's got to be that psychic connection.
Yeah. Hi,
why
Rox.
did he not?
Hey,
Hi,
Rox. Whoa!
Why?
Fucking asshole. Sorry.
Why did Drogon not come in at that exact moment that Danny was killed? He waited. Do you know what I mean? He must have known. Why?
I think he must have known that like his mother was corrupt at this point, and that's why
I also don't think that John knew he was going to kill Danny.
Yeah.
I think that he kind of like was talking to her and wanted answers, and when he didn't get the answers he wanted to hear, he decided then and there, like when they were embracing, he decided, I have to kill her.
Yeah.
So I just think that Drogon wasn't aware because John wasn't aware.
Yeah, there was a killing intent in him. So Drogo didn't feel the intent of killing his mother. So that makes sense. The drone melting scene was really one of my most favorite scenes of all of this episode, regardless of the bad writing and so on and so on. But cinematic, this episode was bomb as fuck. Because we get the drone melting scene. We get the scene where Cersei landed with Drogon, and you can see his wings flapping while she was walking in to the camera, and you have those kind of wings on her, wings of evil, wings of the devil. It was fantastically shot.
Oh, that was
stunning. Cinematography was really good with all that. But like, if we go back to the whole thing where he burnt the phone, it's like, all these theories coming out, and I reckon a good theory about this is Drogon knew it was that Iron Throne that killed his mother. He knew that's what killed both of his siblings. It was the throne was the issue, not John. So burn the throne. No one can have that throne. And he just went about his merry little way, like, let's go and mourn mum. I'm kind of free, so to speak, and
they don't get to choose when John decides to stab.
Rox brought up something that's in the books that they haven't really touched on, but they kind of gleaned a bit, was that the dragon has a soul connection to their owner parent. It's in the books. So, I mean, they kind of alluded to that being the case, because like when Danny was flying and stuff like that, like you know, the dragon like already knew her next move, and so like
Yeah.
the dragon would anticipate what, you know what I mean, what she wanted to do and that sort of thing. And like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think they kind of made it a bit simpler in the series because of the Targaryen, because Jon was able to ride a dragon, and he had a
yeah,
connection with no, with what up, Viserys,
Rhaegon.
Rhaegon. Oh, so yeah, so yeah, Jon was giving her every chance to say the right thing, and she didn't. Rock says,
Yeah.
yeah.
But saying that as well, if John's got a connection with Rhaegon, the dragon, has he also got that soul connection with Ghost?
No. I think that he always, like when they did like the shoots with John, it kind of was alluded that he had some sort of connection with the dragons that he didn't understand. And like when they were in Dragonstone, and he met with the dragons, and Danny kind of was on the back seeing him, and I think that's when he kind of like, she discovered that he is more important than she thought, and he also kind of discovered a connection with the dragons then.
It's interesting
Yeah.
though, because Targaryens were born from magic, and dragons being magic. Direwolves, so direwolves would have been over in the American continent. I don't know what, thousands of years ago or something, but because they were so big, they were slower than the normal, like grey wolves you got out there, right? So
Yeah.
grey wolves, in history, it goes that grey wolves basically were the ones that were able to hunt and get the prey to kind of starve the dire wolves out. And so like dire wolves then technically would be some sort of, not Stone Age wolves, but like, I don't know how long ago it was, like. But it's interesting that they chose dire wolves, and I'm trying to figure out why they
But
brought
wasn't there
dire wolves
like
back.
in the first season, didn't they kind of discuss how the Starks always had like connections with dire wolves and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah, that's why they've got the
Direwolves,
wolf.
yeah,
but direwolves the part of the banner. Isn't the
yeah,
banner a
exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, wouldn't they have like a strange magical, possibly connection with the dire wolves?
Yeah.
Like, so there could have been like a soul link or a or what you call it.
But if you remember, like all of the kids had like some connection with their wolves, because
Yeah.
when Robb Stark died, his wolf was like making a ruckus in
Was
his
howling and going
cage.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also with like Ghost in particular has always been, huh?
Oh, I was just wanting to tell Rox the thing about the dire wolves, the names and remember the names and how
Oh
they.
yeah.
Yeah, but you finish with what you were gonna say, and then I'll tell Rox the other stuff.
Yeah, they got into it more in the books, but there was definitely a connection between the Star Kids and their wolves. Jennifer says, yeah, but I didn't have a lot of, but it was always like and even when Arya met her wolf Nymeria after so many years, they had this connection still.
But it makes you think as well, why was Bran chosen by the Three-Eyed Raven, when like technically in the books it goes into detail that there were many other people that the Three-Eyed Raven tried to train but died. So when you go into the cave or whatever it is the Three-Eyed Raven's in, you see all those skeletons and that, and he's telling them to fly, and they reckon that that's people trying but failing. So why did it work for Bran? Does that mean that and why was Arya able to become this magical faceless person? Why was Jon able to come back alive as a person and not a zombie? And all these connections to the wolf. Is there something magical about the Starks that wasn't revealed in the series, or even didn't go into great depth into the books?
Yeah.
Like,
There has been a lot of talk about like the gods and the old gods, the
The
new
old
gods,
gods
the
and the
one
new, yeah.
god. There has been a lot of talk, and I think that is one thing that we're not going to be able to find out. Just like with religion in our world, it's really just like a secret. But it's kind of like alluded that there is some sort of higher power made, even if it's one higher power or several higher powers. It's like it's a destiny based thing.
Because technically, Bran could be considered a demigod, really, couldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's got those powers. So why the Red Witch? Why was she originally only that interested in the Starks? I know she went for the original guy, thinking he was going to be this big leader, and it turned out he wasn't. But she honed in on the Starks. She turned up when she needed to be there. She didn't go for the Targaryens. She didn't go for anyone else. It was the Starks.
Yeah.
Definitely. And can I just say, we gave the Red Witch too much shit. She was really spot on with her prophecies. I mean, not really spot on, but in the general consensus, everything that she prophesied came true in some form or another.
Because she's had some connection with all of them at some point. Because with Arya, she told Arya, didn't she, about the brown and blue-eyed and green-eyed. And then when she met Arya again, she was like, remember, and all of this is like we say, that prophecies can be interpreted in any way. Even if she's shown a prophecy herself, she's then got to try and interpret that herself, and she got it wrong the first time.
Yeah, King's Blood. Hulu says.
Yeah. Rox, are you still here? Because there was I can't remember if it was Hulu or if it was a girl.
Both of them, I think.
Oh yeah, about the wolves. Their names corresponded with what their owners would become. Like what was it, Lady? Yeah, so Lady was, and then Sansa ended up as Lady Stark. And then and then what was Sansa's one? Not Sansa.
Arya's Nymeria was a warrior and an explorer.
And then Ghost and the shaggy dog. What's his face?
Rickon, a shaggy dog.
Thank you. And there's so many names to remember, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, and and Rob was, what was it? Grey Wind.
Yeah, Grey Wind.
And yeah, because Jon and Ghost, like Jon, he died, and he also kind of disappeared like a ghost in the end. So that was like something I didn't even reflect on until they said it in the chat, but it makes a lot of sense. And also, like I would love to learn more about the Three-Eyed Raven at this point, because I feel like I'm going back to the whole idea of the dire wolves in the beginning. Like, what are the dire wolves doing on this side of the wall? And that could have been the Three-Eyed Raven walking into this pregnant wolf, walking her over to Winterfell, and then just working into like this deer? What was it? I don't know. Killing the wolf, making them find the puppies. Like, that could have been set up by the Three-Eyed Raven. And because he has the ability to control animals, and also like Robert Baratheon was killed by a boar. Was the boar controlled by the Three-Eyed Raven?
Ooh.
And there's a lot of animals in this series dying or killing important people.
But I also, how Ned Stark was the heir to the throne, and how he handed that over to Robert. but it ended with his family going back to being the natural born leaders as well, whether or not it's Sansa, Queen of the North, and then you've got Bran of the Six Kingdoms and that, you know, and then Jon Snow going over to the true North. You know, it's kind of a poetic justice. All of that happened for them to all fall into place, you know, and that's what's interesting. The other interesting thing about it is the first season of Game of Thrones, the opening credits was that gate to the north opening up and people going out. And it ended with the gate again opening up and people going out.
Yeah. So do we want to talk a little bit about future spin-offs and stuff like that?
Yes.
Dora
the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer, Arya Stark going west of Westeros. I want to see that spin-off. I so desperately want to see that spin-off.
Oh yeah.
Because they say that where she's going is all mythical and magical. So you've got your krakens and all these mythical creatures and so forth over there. And I find that interesting because Arya is magic herself, being a faceless person like a no one.
Yeah.
And they say that people either when they try to conquer the place or go and visit it, either people returned because they couldn't get there, or they died or were never to be heard of or seen again. So, like, could that mean that Arya could get there and explore? And because she's magic based,
it's not happening apparently. What the fuck? If it's not happening, I'm signing a petition.
Also, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Let me just go and write a really angry email to the producers.
Like, they can't set it up like it's definitely going to be a spin-off and then not give us the spin-off.
I know
they're giving us blue balls.
Yeah.
Children of the Forest is definitely one they're coming out with, I think. Yeah, my brother's just said they've started filming that already.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's going back to the whole Azor High prophecy.
Okay, so I'm watching Game of Thrones facts saying the Game of Thrones prequel pilot about the Age of Heroes, which includes the Long Night and the war against the White Walkers, starts shooting in June.
That's now.
Nice.
So we're gonna, I feel like, yeah, they should definitely elaborate more on the Night King, because that was just such a nonsense. Yes, it was nonsense.
Yeah.
Hi, brother. So it's like, oh, and here I say HBO executive Casey Bloys confirms there will be no Game of Thrones spin-off series of Arya exploring west of the Sunset Sea.
Oh, that's sad. That was
assholes. Assholes. Do you know how to spell murder?
That's terrible. I'm so upset by that. That makes me very upset.
Yeah, that is like, I was so looking forward to her like having her own like, because we have no idea what's west of Westeros. There could be like dragons over there. We could have krakens. We could have like anything. And she is this like assassin lady. She could, it doesn't even have to be the same actor, because she could have changed her face.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you see what's her name who plays Sansa? I can't remember her name now. She spoke up on people that were put a petition out to have, I don't know, something like the last season rewritten or something, and she's like, that's really disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't matter how annoyed you are with it. At the end of the day, it's been done. We've worked hard on it all. You know.
Yeah, sure. I can get that. I just feel like they rushed it. Hi, and were you gone, Angelo?
Yeah, he had to get a package.
Okay, sorry. I was like, where? So no, I can understand her, but at the same time I felt like they missed so many opportunities to make this a great ending to a great series.
Yeah.
And even like I have no issues with the ending. I just want it to be more fleshed out. Like flesh out the characters, flesh out how they ended up there. Like
Mhm.
give us 3 more episodes, or even like if I could choose, I would want another season. But give me 3 more episodes where we get more meat on the bone of this.
But if you think about it, now they've kind of left it as an open ending, so
Mm.
it could be in a couple of years' time or whatever. Like Netflix would pick it up because they know they're going to make a lot of money out of it,
But
you
no,
know.
I
And
don't want Netflix to pick it up. I want the same people to work on it.
Netflix could ruin also the show.
Mm.
But in my absent time, while I was waiting to write a note to my parcel delivery man, I was able to search on Twitter and the internet basically about the spin-offs, and the spin-offs are not happening. As
Mm.
in, there would be no sequel to Game of Thrones, but the prequels are still in development. And the
mm,
Mm.
first prequel is set to shoot in June of this year. So
Mhm.
Game of Thrones facts still had their facts straight.
Yeah.
yeah, they started filming the Children of the Forest one about the Ozzy or whatever it is
Mm.
prophecy. So there's been like little bits of pieces of people seeing production of that. I just wonder where they're gonna film it. Are they gonna go back over to Ireland to film it, or
Mm. I just like I hope that someday we're gonna get Arya and her travels abroad, because I feel like it might be some sort of a copyright thing with the creative license and everything, because it's a George R.R. Martin creation. Um, but as a viewer, that is a season like that is a series I would want. How would
Yeah,
you
but
guys
also
set up to a better ending? Changing characters and adding more pilots, plots, episodes, etc. Who wonders. Uh,
I think we
I'd
could
say
have
more
done with
episodes.
more
yeah,
episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
because they seem to cram it all in, whereas
Mm,
they've done it what, an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half per episode. That could have, if they didn't do it that long, they could have actually gone to the full 8 episodes rather than the 6.
Yep.
mm.
Because there were
I,
some things that weren't relevant in the battle scenes
mm.
Mm.
to an extent.
Yeah, I would actually have changed a lot of things with the episode, The Long Night.
Mhm.
I would want to change a lot of things in that one. Mostly the actual battle, and I am not an expert in military or strategies or anything, but I saw so many plot holes that annoyed me. And
Mm,
also like the idea of having main characters put in such a dangerous situation and basically everyone surviving. I didn't like that. Like if you put characters in such a dangerous and impossible situations, some of them have to die.
Mm.
And if you don't
mm,
want them to die, don't put them there, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, we did lose a that. Yeah, you're right. We didn't lose main characters, but we definitely lost some well-loved supporting characters.
yeah,
mm.
yeah, we did lose supporting characters, but Sam being overrun by like 10 undeads and surviving, he's not a fighter. He should have died.
Mm.
Brienne and Jamie being
Mhm.
overrun, like even like like it's not like realistic for all of them to survive these impossible numbers. And
But they might have had magic on their side. Like there was
Yeah.
something always intervening. Like destiny or fate was always intervening so
with
that
all of them, like
Well,
it
there
doesn't.
was, I mean, with Brianna, like she got her knighthood she always wanted. And for her to survive meant that you would have someone who was level headed, tactical, but wasn't selfish. And she thought of the right people on that council. And she got that in the
Mm,
end. So, where even though Braun, what's his name? Braun was, I can't remember now. The one
Bron.
that was the one that, yeah, was that the one that was sent to kill Jamie and
Yeah,
Tyrion?
yeah, Bron.
Yeah,
Yep.
even him being on that cancel. Like I've seen people like, why did he survive? And that, but he's tactical thinking. He's a warrior. He's a leader, and he knows. It might have been only in his best interest, but he knows what's worth it and what's not. Like, so he knew, okay, yeah, I'm going to go and kill Tyrion and Jaime like Cersei wanted me to. However, I could get a better offer for them and I could be left alone, and he got what he wanted. He got his own little land and his own little kingdom going on there. So I don't think he would be so sinister, but he's got the background of tactical and wars and leadership and so forth behind him, that he's now been given this opportunity to have a hand in something. So he is going to kind of get partially his own way, and he's going to have that respect that he's always looked for and not be used as like someone's pawn.
Yeah, but
Hewley Hugh wrote the episode was dark and full of errors.
Yeah.
That's very, very clever. I like that a lot.
So, but a lot of that episode I would like to change, but the most of it is basically I would like to add a season, and I would like to have the war against the Night King be one episode drawn out into more than one episode. I would
and it
like.
just felt like they just it was so much like jumping, whereas back in the previous seasons, like if somebody was traveling, you traveled with them. But in this season, it was okay. We're at the wall, or not the wall. We're at Winterfell, or no, they were at the wall. Then they were at Winterfell. Then they were here and there, and there was no like there was. I guess I don't know if it's because they were out of source material or George R.R. Martin didn't feel like he was collaborating well with the two writers that he's been collaborating with the whole time. But like I don't know why I don't understand why this had to be 6 episodes.
Yeah, I would like give us like I think they have varied from most of the seasons have been 10 episodes. And it's like I wanted to have like more time discovering, like we have spent so long with this, like the real threat is the Night King and the dead army. That has always, from the first episode, that has been like the real threat all along. And then we come to season 8 and it's over on episode 3, and it started basically on episode 3. Like it just like, okay, so on to the next then, I guess. Yeah. That in my world, the war against the Night King would have been like the final frontier, not just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
I think they should have done whole season on the confrontation between the Earthlings, or basically not the Earthlings, but the humans and the Night Kings, and the Night King and his army. And the next season, the final season, should have been their way traveling to King's Landing and setting up the whole war. Because the final episode, the ending, the real ending of it all, I was perfectly fine with it. Everybody was perfectly fine with it, with the ending, with Jon going up to the north, with Arya going up to the west, and Sansa being the Queen of Winterfell, and Dany being dead. Everybody was fine with that. But the way they got to that point, that was what most people really pissed off. And I think it's because of the writing. Prior seasons, they had the input of George R.R. Martin. They had his whole knowledge and his whole team behind it. And they had basically a fleshed out story and just put in a little bit of fillers or adapted the story, because not everything that in the book was made its way into the show. So they had to flesh out something. And now that they don't have, that they didn't have the input of him or his writing team or even some scripts of him. They had to come up with something completely new. And that was when everything went haywire.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to emulate something, they couldn't, because he was the creator of all of it, and only he truly knows where a character is going. So that was my biggest problem I had with the whole season.
Because I think after Masandro was beheaded and that, and it kind of all ended on that thing, I think they could have added to, in the end of that, that strategy meeting round the table, and then ended there, and then that would have been a whole chunk taken out of the next episode, and they could have put something a bit more meaningful in it, like the whole thing with Daenerys on the dragon up on top of the building in King's Landing, and she's looking down at like people, and they're kind of making peace and surrendering, but then she looks at where Cersei is, and the anger in her face and that, and it's like I saw someone had made their own edited clip where Dany's looking at the Cersei and getting angry, and every time it kind of goes into her, it's flashbacks of like people that have been killed or lost, and she's just getting more angry and angry. I think that would have been really good to have that in there. I think it would have been more meaningful, and people might have been able to work out a bit more the thought process that Dany was going through at the time, that she'd totally lost sight of what her actual mission was, and she was then just acting on revenge and her emotions.
I just like I said, I have no issues with Dany going mad. I have no issues with her dying. I have no issues with Jon killing her or Ban ending up on the throne. Like, I'm perfectly fine with everything. I just wanted it to be more fleshed out, so it didn't feel rushed and like just, okay, I guess we're doing it this way. Like, it's like we had 6 episodes this season, and 2 of those episodes were 2 wars, like big wars, and they cramped 2 wars into this seasons in 2 episodes. And the rest of it was basically them trying to give reasons to why it ended up that way, but they didn't give the viewers enough time to see it, to like melt it in and just like accepting that Dany is going mad. Like, give it 2 more episodes to basically show how she's going mad. Like, she's burning innocent people. Like, she's riding her dragon and just like, she's starting to see visions. Like, maybe she sees visions of Cersei in the crowd of people, and and that's why she burns the entire village down, because she's trying to kill Cersei.
And this is the thing, is that, like I said near the beginning, that if we were given an extra episode, where that war finished, and we saw the thought process of Jon going through that whole thing, and Dany going through what she was going through, and then that end of it would be her death, and then them all dealing with that, and then you see people coming down traveling for that council, and then the last episode would be them at that council talking about the democracy of how it was going to go ahead, and then they're all going their separate ways, and then that final episode would be given to each sector to see how they kind of panned out, rather than it just jumping every few minutes, because I think we were only given like 11 minutes of seeing everyone go their separate ways, and it's like, what justice is that? It's kind of, if you go back to the original season when Ned Stark wanted the North to be independent, he wanted his kids to be these justifying rulers and so forth. It kind of disrespected that in a certain way, as in the time frame given to them. Like, what are people going to learn in 10 or 11 minutes, if that? They should have been given enough time in their own, like, an hour and 20-minute episode, that you could see them all going off, and then them putting into place certain things to show you that they're changing the way things are being done. Like, you know, a bit of justice there. I've got no issue with how it all played out in the end. I just think it went too quickly, and we could have been given, you know, another episode. Like, do the fans and the viewers fair, you know, and give them some justice, some closing on this, because this isn't something that's gone on for 2 or 3 years. This is what, 12 years, 8 years, 10,
8,
okay.
9.
You know, and people have put in a lot of their own time. I mean, like, you know, getting a bit petty here, like, how many people have called in sick to work just so that they can binge watch all the seasons before the next season comes out? Or, you know, they book holidays just so that they can watch this, or, you know, conventions they've been through, fan fiction they're writing, people making their own, like, video, like, so much dedication and time is being given to this series that it all to sort of end so abruptly.
It's like a sloppy ending to a great story for 7 seasons.
Yeah.
And I think like for me watching it, like, because remember, like, the first season when people were so outraged because of Ned being beheaded, that was because we were shocked. We didn't see it coming, but we were outraged because we were involved in the series. We were involved in his destiny. And then, like, 7 seasons later, Danny dies, and it's like no one cares. Because they didn't build it up properly. Like, the outrage isn't because, oh no, Danny died, or whatever it is. Like, it's just like, okay, she died, you didn't do this properly. That's the outrage, not that she died. The way they did the
it was
story.
rushed.
Yeah, it was rushed.
And it's like, if you think about Game of Thrones and the way everything's done, and it is quite political, and that it's easy to form some sort of bond to the series because it does have reflections of real life. I mean, if we're going back hundreds of years, because
Bye, girl.
Bye, girl.
Bye.
Because it's got reflections of it's based on Tudors and how they kind of all overthrew each other and so forth. So it's got a big reflection of reality, and I think that's why people kind of hooked on and homed onto this really easily. And it was, you know, it's, yeah.
Okay, so Rock says, has it occurred to all of you that this rush job might have been HBO limiting the show and not the writers? I don't care, honestly, who limited the season. I just feel like they tossed away such a wonderful opportunity to give.
They were making a lot of money from it as well.
Yeah.
Not just the actors. Yeah. This
And
is like big movie.
It definitely, it was a big movie. And just to bring up something, a girl with no name who sadly had to leave the chat. Bye, girl. But she said something how Sophie Turner was kind of defensive about the whole thing. And I'm going to read the statement because she did an interview with the New York Times, I think, or was it some other publication? Anyways, I found the interview in the New York Times. The fan reaction, the interviewer asked, the fan reaction this season has been much more negative than in previous seasons. Were you surprised by some of the vitriol? And she responded with, honestly, I'm not surprised. People always have an idea in their heads of how they want the show to finish. And so when it doesn't go to their liking, they start to speak about it and rebel. The thing about Game of Thrones that's always been amazing is the fact that there's always been crazy twists and turns right from season 1 when Ned's beheading. So Daenerys becoming something of the Mad Queen, it shouldn't be such a negative thing for fans. It's a shock for sure, but I think it's just because it hasn't gone their way. All of these petitions and things like that, and now it gets juicy, I think it's respectful to the crew and the writers and the filmmakers who have worked tirelessly over 10 years and for 11 months shooting the last season, like 50-something night shoots. So many people worked so hard on it, and for people to just rubbish it because it's not what they want to see, it's just disrespectful. I think another interview. It goes on and on, but that's the most what people are hung up on. And I think she has a point that it is in some kind of way disrespectful if people make up petitions and really get angry with it in a disrespectful way. But what people don't understand, and I think what she doesn't understand, is that it's just fair criticism. It's not
Mm,
that the whole season was perfectly written. All of the other six seasons have been really good. Have had a really good script for most of the episodes. I mean, there were some kind of downfalls, but all in all, it was really good written. Season this season now, it was it was kind of mad, and it was a rushed job. To reiterate on something Rock said, it was a rushed job. They didn't have limited timing because the next big thing for HBO doesn't come out for like another 2 months. So they had time to expand the season, but choose to not to. I
mm,
think it's not HBO's fault. It's the writer's fault because most of the writing this season hasn't been really done. There were two big fights that took on a whole lot of time, and to be honest, what do you have to write for a big fight to be presented on the screen?
mm,
Nothing really. The character building should have been done, and that was the writer's job. And I, in my personal opinion, think that they haven't done the job. And I completely understand why Sophie is in her feelings right now. She got shit for playing Jean Grey in the new X-Men movies. Got shit again because she played Jean Grey in the upcoming X-Men movie, which has disastrous reviews from the get-go because people saw an early cut of it. So I think it's warranted that she has those feelings. But
mm,
I also understand why people are kind of iffy about her comments.
mm,
It's hard to say because even if they did extend it to like 8 episodes, people would still be miffed about it because it's ended. And I don't think there was any way of them getting away from any sort of criticism or hate speech regarding it and people being upset because it's a big series, a big fandom that has ended now. And, people are always going to put out their distaste for it. I just think they could have done a bit more justice with
mm,
extending episode wise. If they had the final episode as an explaining of everything, then great. I mean, they're putting out on Sunday, like behind the scenes of the last
mm.
series being filmed and so forth, which is great. But it's just if they could do that, why couldn't they put like one extra episode in?
Or even they did if like say like they have a limit like you have 6 episodes, like HBO decides you have 6 episodes to do this, and so they have to like cramp in this in 6 episodes. But I feel like they could have done smarter decisions in their storytelling, like instead of
Mm,
having 2 full episodes of basically scenery in the war, like it was in the fifth episode. Arya was no, the fourth, the fifth, I don't remember. Arya was basically running around by with all of these people being scared and killed and everything. Or we had like scenes of watching the dragon burning everything down, and it was like so much just watching. It was basically like at least half of the entire episodes was basically just screaming and running or
mm,
scenery.
Mm.
And I feel like they could have removed at least 20% of that to give us storytelling.
yeah.
And because they should have used every opportunity they had to show us what was going to happen with, like, show us more of Danny going insane, show us more what Bran was doing when he was warged into something else when the Night King, the Long Night was shot. Like, show us more of what is important to the story and not important for the like the look of the episode. It's a beautifully shot episode. Both the war episodes are great when it comes to visuals, but it's lacking storytelling. It lacks so much storytelling. It's just visuals.
I think
I'm
they
going
got
to.
where they made those those battle episodes more cinematic, like it was a film in a cinema. Okay, if it was a film in a cinema, it'd be a whole different thing because that's what you want to see. But because it was on TV, you want to see more of that story plot, and that's maybe where they went a little bit wrong about that. But
and just like the idea of Ghost leaving with Tormund, it's like I had this like theory about John mentally not being able to pet his dog because that would mean he would say goodbye and everything. Like I had to give all of this mental backstory, and then it just turns out, oh, we didn't have enough money for the CGI.
Now, just a quick
Please.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry. How would you have felt if the two battle scenes had been shot as movies?
Well, I wouldn't have been.
Like if
it
they
would...
had been movie length episodes, like proper movie length episodes?
3
Like-
hours. I was a fan of that from the get-go, because there was at some point there were fan theories floating around that the last season would be an episodic film, I think trilogy or quadruple-logy or whatever logy. But I think that would be the perfect ending. The last 3 episodes as movies, 2-hour movies, would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Enough time to flesh out the battle scenes and enough time to flesh out characters. Even 3 hours, I wouldn't mind. I've sat through a countless not Game of Thrones, Lord of the Ring rewatches where I watched all 3 movies back to back, the extended cut version. My ass was on fire by the last one. So I wouldn't mind it. I would have minded. But 12 hours of Game of Thrones in one sitting. But alas, I want to read what Hulu said. The writers wanted to work on Star Wars instead, hence them rushing the finish. Rumor has it that HBO is happy to offer more seasons and episodes. Even George R.R. Martin said in a video they could go longer. Yes, and they did. And I think that the disservice from the writers to the show and to the cast, crew, and everybody else involved. Just because you see on the horizon a bigger paycheck doesn't mean you have to put on you have to put less work in what you are currently working on. I think that is a shitty job from them.
And the thing with this is, with Game of Thrones, even like Star Wars, after the original films finished, before they started doing the prequels and that, for years and a decade and so, they were still making money from that, from conventions and so forth. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so Game of Thrones, in the long run, is still going to make them a lot of money. You know, you're going to have like Netflix or like Amazon or something pick it up and put it on there. You're going to have DVD box sets. You're going to have it replaying on TV. You're going to have conventions. You might have people buying certain rights because they want to make I don't know, other TV series or films based off Game of Thrones and then play off different characters. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's all these endless possibilities. But at the end of the day, even with Star Wars ends at, I think, the end of this year. Like,
no,
so
don't trigger Rocks because she's
okay.
in a full marathon.
Sorry, Rox. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but okay, so we have been talking for 2 hours. I was thinking, so what was your favorite part of the ending for you guys?
Me? Well, I think my favourite part was John going up to the True North with the wildlings. That was my favourite, seeing him go with Ghost and the wildlings and being able to be free and not have like the world on his shoulders, you know, and he's been able to go and live that life, not being bothered, not being told that he has to go and do something because of his blood or his lineage, and being able to go out and do what he wants to do now and live a life without people watching him. I think that is kind of like the poetic justice for him at the end of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I absolutely loved the ending with Sansa being the Queen of the North, and her just sitting there, like in all her regal power. Like she was so handsome and with the crown and everything. I was just like, yeah, Queen of the North, yeah, all of that. I love that.
Crown.
I want that crown. I want her face. I want her hair. I want the dress. I want everything.
Alexa?
Oh, favorite scene for me. Look, to be honest, it would have to be it would have to be towards the end when the King's Council had come together and you like saw all these people walk in, and you saw like you saw Lady Brienne was there as the leader of the King's Guard. You had Bronn there, who was the Master of Coins, who's one of the dodgiest people you'll ever know, so he fits the role. You had Tyrion there as the Hand of the King. You had Sam as the Grand Maester, and then you had Sir Davos as the leader of the Navy, basically. And I was like, yay!
Yeah, Brianna Tart wrote Wikipedia on Jamie. Who do you say? So Angelo, what will you end this?
I have to go with Julio. The Brienne of Tarth moment was my most favorite moment because she could have been a petty bitch, and wrote, "Yeah, he has a tiny dick, and it's not of all the people meet enough big." But instead,
Jamie has a small peen. Like,
but instead, she took the high road. No, that was the most touching scene out of all of them. She was made a knight. She was made at the end. She's the commander of all knights. She is really there, and she really got her moment. She really got her moment of being acknowledged for the hard work she has always done, and she's not going to be overlooked anymore. I think that was the most. I was, my God, finally acknowledgement.
I just it kind of in a sense, although it ended a bit too quickly into a like rushed and abrupt, it's kind of heartwarming to see that, like I've said before, Ned wanting his children to have this way in life for the ruling and for there to be peace and for the North to be independent, kind of, their father's hopes had finally come true.
Yeah. So I'm gonna interrupt you here, and I'm gonna say that we have to wrap this up now. It's been 2 hours of just talking about Game of Thrones. It has been lovely doing so, but we have to end it now. So thank you so much, Alexis, Angelo, and Joe, for being here talking about Game of Thrones. I'm sure we could do this like for a few more days, 2 hours a day, but we're gonna have to end this here. So thank you so much
to everybody in the chat as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we will be back. The Powderpuff Girls will be back with Angelo on Saturday, 7 p.m. EST. So tune in then. And yeah, so we are going to end it now, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
And we